Dear Mina, forgive me, my love, for it has been so long since I last wrote. I have been stuck here, in the vault, for the past number of months. I have unwisely committed myself to watching and talking about horror movies repeatedly without respite. Yesterday, when I tried to leave the vault, I realized the door was locked. That is when it occurred to me that I am to be held prisoner here. I am provided with a steady supply of cigars, though, which have lifted my spirits somewhat. I do get mail delivered often by a bat that flies in with it. It's a terrible effect, but people seem to like it. Speaking of, I did receive the package you sent me of clean bloomers. I cannot thank you enough for this, since I have been wearing the same monster tee and Hawaiian shirt over it since October. I have no pants, but the audience can't see that because it's out of frame. Each month I grow wearier of this routine, wondering how the hell do people actually monetize their channels on YouTube? I went to film school in New York for 4 years, and now I'm doing this in my 40s. By the way, this letter-writing bit with my stupid, drifting English accent is the best thing I could come up with to open this episode on Bram Stoker's Dracula. My director, who is sitting in the corner, couldn't come up with anything better either. He also has no pants. Anywho, signing off now. Your immortal beloved, Orlok. P.S. Let's get on with it. Roll the trailer.
Here occurred the frightening and shocking history of Prince Dracula and the woman he loved.
I have crossed oceans of time to find you.
Ja, Dracul.
There's a sinister, darker side to him I find irresistible. I have never met any man with such a passion for life. He is unlike any man. What are you?
Vampires do exist. This one we fight, this one we face. Can take on many forms. He is both young and old. He can appear as mist, as vapor, as the fog. And he can vanish at will.
My love.
The power of his evil desire has no end.
You've got to go to him, and you've got to love him.
She is a willing recruit and devoted disciple. She is the devil's concubine. Dagger!
Join me in eternal life.
Your salvation is his destruction.
I want to be what you are. I want to see what you see. I want to love what you love. Take me away from all this death.
In 1992, the director of The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, Francis Ford Coppola, adapted horror's most famous Gothic novel into one of the richest and most erotic retellings of the story ever set to celluloid. The film stars Gary Oldman as the title character. The actor is at his most chameleon-like here. It's like Oldman got to play all the versatility he's known for, wrapped up into one character. The film also stars a young Winona Ryder at her loveliest, playing Mina, Dracula's reincarnated love interest here. It was Winona Ryder who actually brought the project to Francis Ford Coppola. As Mina's gallant young fiancé, who is held prisoner by Dracula, Jonathan Harker, the role was originally considered to go to Winona Ryder's then-boyfriend, Johnny Depp. But since the studio felt that the young actor was not a big enough name at the time, it went to a very charming, if not a bit of a fish out of water in Gothic literature setting, actor Keanu Reeves. The always reliable Carrie Elwes, best known for the films The Princess Bride and the original Saw, plays Lord Arthur Holmwood. As the Texan with the big knife, Quincy Morris is actor Billy Campbell, who kids of the late 80s and early 90s might remember as the Rocketeer. As the lovesick, drug-addicted Dr. Seward is prolific British thespian Richard E. Grant. Musician, actor, and overall Renaissance man Tom Waits plays the bug-eating Renfield. Monica Bellucci pops up, literally, as one of Dracula's brides. Plus, the film introduced in her first big studio role 26-year-old British actress Sadie Frost in an underrated tragic performance as Lucy. She's a standout in a film packed with prestigious actors, and though she's still working today, it's a shame her career didn't become bigger after this role. Now that leaves us with one other actor. Who could that be? Ah yes, Hannibal Lecter himself, the iconic Sir Anthony Hopkins, who joins the proceedings as eccentric and mercurial Dr. Abraham Van Helsing, who faces off with Oldman's Nosferatu. These two would get another bite at the apple to face off again years later in Ridley Scott's adaptation of Hannibal. When screenwriter James V. Hart and the director of Jack set out to adapt Bram Stoker's novel, they wanted their approach to be unique from the many other movie versions that had been made before, in that they would actually follow the book. The original 1931 version, starring Bela Lugosi, was based more on the stage play of Dracula, which was adapted by Stoker himself. The silent 1922 German adaptation, Nosferatu, had to be changed because F.W. Murnau didn't have the rights to Stoker's novel. Many other Draculas since, some starring Christopher Lee for the Hammer Studios, others starring Frank Langella, Louis Jourdan, even Jack Palance. None were true to the book. All either cut scenes or switch or conflated characters. So when it came time to adapt the screenplay, both James V. Hart and the director of One from the Heart were going to do it right, hence the title Bram Stoker's Dracula. So, in the spirit of fidelity to the material, the film opens with a prologue that is a complete departure from the book. Now, in this case, Coppola's departure really enhanced the character of Dracula and his legend by directly correlating him with the real-life Dracula, who ruled Wallachia, or the Romanian country, in the 1400s. Vlad Tepes, or translated to Vlad the Impaler, was thought to be the original inspiration for Stoker when creating Dracula. In actuality, Stoker's writings reference Attila the Hun more often than he does Vlad. Either way, Vlad Dracul's gruesome and bloody reputation for impaling his victims alive made him the perfect historical figure to draw from. The film depicts Vlad's real-life battle against the Ottoman Empire in its opening. It sets up Dracula as a more tragic and romantic figure when he returns from the war to find his wife, Elisabetta, who is played by Winona Ryder, having taken her own life after believing him killed. Thus, she is damned, as stated by the Orthodox priest played by Anthony Hopkins. This begins Dracula's feud with God, renouncing him. If Elisabetta be barred from entering heaven, then so will he, becoming cursed as the first vampire is created. This renouncement of God is depicted when the stone cross starts gushing blood. It's a light opening. If you were out getting popcorn in the lobby, you didn't miss much. Actually, what Coppola sets up here is a villain you can care for. Plus, by working in these historical and religious themes, Coppola has elevated the material from just another horror adaptation to levels of tragic opera. From here, the movie brings us up to the turn of the century England and progresses, adhering closely to Stoker's book. Coppola and Hart even employ the narrative structure of Stoker's novel, which was unique at the time. The novel is told all through pieced-together diary and journal entries, letters, and even a sea captain's log. The film does this as well, You could say using this narrative conceit in Stoker's time to tell a story was the first literary version of a found footage horror genre, or found documents, if you will. Coppola also brought in an erotic element that had not been fully explored in a Dracula film before. After all, vampire stories are all about the exchange of bodily fluids. Stoker's story is also about the repression of women and sexuality, especially religious European sensibilities during the turn of the century. The story exploits xenophobic fears of foreigners coming into the Anglo world, bringing sexually transmitted diseases.
Blood, and the diseases of the blood.
But in short, this is a pretty horny movie.
Please let me touch it. It's so big.
The film is a sumptuous visual and aural experience. Bram Stoker's Dracula won 3 Academy Awards, one for sound, another for hair and makeup, creating all those great looks for Dracula, standouts being the now iconic old Dracula look, Wolf Dracula, and especially the full-body Batman Dracula. In my opinion, those makeups beat any CGI creature. The third Oscar went to the costumes for the astounding work created by Japanese designer and artist Eko Ishioka. Coppola said from the beginning that his plan was to make the costumes the main production value of the show. He gave Ishioka free rein to create some of the most bizarre and elegant costumes in a period piece. Ishioka said she drew some of her inspiration from nature, like the finger guards the asylum puts on Renfield so he can't scratch, having an insect-like quality. Ishioka also used reptiles like snakes and lizards as inspiration for Lucy's many gowns, especially the wedding dress Lucy was to be married in, but ended up as her burial shroud. It resembles the look of a frilled dragon lizard. Dracula's armor during the prologue has mythological dragon-like features, since the name Dracula literally translates to the dragon. Though visually stunning, some of the costumes were hard to perform in and ended up being a source of frustration at times, especially for actor Gary Oldman, as you see here.
Hold still, of course. I can't move in this. That's an occasion where actually the suit was wearing me, because I couldn't really do my thing.
He's just trying to feel out a position.
In the end, I tried to ignore the suit, actually, and just... I am not wearing this armor. I'm just going to do what I want to do.
Jesus Christ.
Eko Ishioka spoke of wanting to blend Asian and European sensibilities within the design. She and Coppola also looked at classical art and painting for inspiration, including one of Dracula's costumes taken from the famous 1908 Gustav Klimt painting, The Kiss. In fact, along with the production designer Tom Sanders and cinematographer Michael Ballhaus, Coppola created a tone and world steeped in subtle visual references to famous works of art. Traditional fine art wasn't the only influence on Coppola's vision. Many visual concepts and techniques were also borrowed from European cinema. One great influence on Coppola was French filmmaker, poet, and artist Jean Cocteau. Specifically his most famous film, La Belle et Bête, or in English, Beauty and the Beast, from 1946. In that film, Cocteau created a surreal, dreamlike palette. Coppola's concept of Castle Dracula, as enchanted, a place where the laws of physics don't apply, comes more from the Beast's castle in Cocteau's film than Stoker's novel of Dracula. Some specific moments stolen from, paid homage to from Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast are when Dracula and Mina are drinking absinthe and Dracula catches Mina's tears, which have turned to diamonds in his hand. One visual effect is borrowed from another Cocteau film, 1950's Orpheus, in which the title character falls into the underworld using trick photography. As seen here in Jonathan Harker's Escape. That actually brings us to the visual effects portion of the production, which may be the most innovative and underrated aspect of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Coppola had assembled a prestigious team of modern visual effects artists to tackle the demands of the film, but he quickly discovered during pre-production that the VFX supervisors he had hired were insisting on doing things the modern conventional way, utilizing early CGI techniques at the time, mixed with optical compositing.
I have not been getting what I've been asking for. I have been asking for shadows and illusion and double impositions and imagination.
Coppola knew this approach would not fit his vision and fired the entire VFX team and instead replaced them with his son, Roman Coppola. Now, despite how this sounds, it's one of those scenarios where nepotism actually worked out, because Roman Coppola went to work researching and employing classic techniques that could all be done in camera. Now, in camera means there are no effects added in post, through the computer or compositing. Everything you see is either built or happening in front of the camera lens. You see, since the story of Dracula takes place during the turn of the century, Coppola felt it would be unique to only use techniques that would have been available during the silent era of cinema. These techniques include double exposure.
And that was done in camera with 2 passes in which we photographed the rat with the camera upside down, and we used a special matte box that blocked the film from being exposed. We rewound the film, flipped the camera over, and those 2 passes were exposed.
Forced perspective. Pepper's Ghost. Constructed models and graphic matching. Everything you see in Bram Stoker's Dracula was created using classic, old-fashioned trick photography and on-set magic. To my knowledge, Bram Stoker's Dracula may be the last major film to employ these techniques. It's astounding work and gives the film its unique, dreamlike tone and quality. According to Coppola, the score to Dracula was also achieved in a different way. He brought on classical symphony and Polish film composer Wojciech Kilar to score his first English-language film. Unlike most movie scores, which are composed and recorded to be in sync with the picture, Kilar worked on the music to Bram Stoker's Dracula in Poland and recorded each cue on its own, not synced to picture. Though unusual for film scoring, Coppola loved the music and was sent the tracks from Poland. In California, Coppola's editing team then spotted and cut the cues into the film as needed. Kilar would go on to score several films afterwards for director Roman Polanski. think the legacy of Bram Stoker's Dracula endures as one of the best, if not the best, cinematic interpretation of Dracula. I think the film is somewhat underrated, and only on a repeat view does one really begin to appreciate the accomplishment of the film. It's a superb cast, except for maybe Keanu Reeves. Fantastic art direction, innovative costume designs, and intense score, all in service of one of classic literature's greatest Gothic tales. I also think it's Francis Ford Coppola's last great film. From a director who has never been afraid to experiment, Bram Stoker's Dracula is a testament to cinematic art. It's also really horny. And now, nieces and nephews, it's time to find out what's going to be on the next episode of Uncle Orlok's Vault. You know what time it is. It's time for Batmail. Here comes...
Yes, it's up there.